Imagine standing in the center of a roaring stadium, holding the ultimate trophy, only to realize that the man you trusted most, the one you treated like a son, was already planning his exit behind your back. Trent Robinson is widely regarded as the most cold-blooded, tactical genius in the NRL, a man who built a bondy wall of loyalty that seemed impenetrable. But in the high-stakes world of rugby league, loyalty is often just a placeholder for the next big paycheck. The air in the Roosters boardroom turned ice-cold when the realization hit: the very culture of brotherhood Robinson painstakingly cultivated was being dismantled from the inside. It wasn't just a player leaving for more money, it was a fundamental breach of a sacred pact, a knife between the shoulder blades from someone who had shared his dinner table. This isn't just about a jersey change, it's about the psychological shattering of a mentor who believed he had finally found a bond that surpassed the brutal business of the game. Welcome to All Sports Updates. Hit that subscribe button right now to stay ahead of every major twist in the game. The betrayal felt less like a professional transition and more like a calculated assassination of the club's identity. Robinson has always operated on a level of emotional intelligence that sets him apart. He learns his players' languages, reads their minds, and protects them like kin against the relentless media cycle. So, when the news broke that a core pillar of his premiership-winning squad had been negotiating with a bitter rival while looking Robinson in the eye every morning at training, the shockwaves were seismic. The silence in the locker room was deafening as the strategist who usually had every answer was left searching for a reason why. He had fought for this player, defended his controversies, and sacrificed other talent to keep him in the tricolours. To see that same player smiling in the colours of a rival was a visual manifestation of a heartbreak that no amount of tactical brilliance could fix. All Sports Updates is your home for the truth. Don't forget to like and share this video. As the layers of this defection were peeled back, the level of premeditation became truly sickening. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision fueled by a bad season, it was a slow-burn deception that lasted months. Robinson, the man who pridefully claims that the Roosters are unequivocally his home, found himself a stranger in his own house, wondering who else was waiting for the right price to walk away. The narrative of the Rooster for life was exposed as a fragile myth, leaving the coach to reconcile his deep-seated love for the game with the shallow reality of its participants. Every handshake and every brotherhood speech now carried the bitter aftertaste of skepticism. He had invested years into a person, not just a player, only to find that the person he thought he knew never actually existed. The emotional toll of this specific exit didn't just hurt the team's chances at another title, it wounded the soul of a man who lives and breathes for the crest on the chest. In the aftermath, the landscape of Bondi changed forever, marking a before and after moment in Robinson's storied career. He remains the longest-serving coach in the club's history, but the scars from this specific abandonment serve as a constant reminder that even the strongest walls have cracks. He continues to lead with a steely gaze, yet those close to the inner circle know that the warmth he once offered so freely has been tempered by the reality of the ultimate letdown. The game moves on, contracts are signed, and new stars emerge, but the ghost of that broken promise still lingers in the hallways of the training center. Trent Robinson learned the hardest lesson of all: in the hunt for glory, the person most likely to break your heart is the one you gave it to. This was never just about rugby league, it was about the death of a dream where loyalty meant more than a bank balance. Make sure you're subscribed to All Sports Updates so you never miss a beat of the action. Would you like me to dive deeper into the specific player fallout or analyze how this changed the Roosters' recruitment strategy for 2026? It's calculated, clinical, and built on the foundation of a chipmunk brotherhood that was supposed to be unbreakable. But imagine the moment the air leaves the room, not because of a grand final loss, but because the man who built the fortress realized the hammers were being swung from the inside. Trent Robinson, a coach defined by his steely composure and an intellectual rigor that revolutionized the NRL, stood in the center of a betrayal so deep it didn't just rattle the club, it fractured his soul. We aren't talking about a tactical disagreement or a salary cap dispute, we are talking about the cold, sharp blade of disloyalty from the very lieutenant he handpicked to guard his back. When the walls finally came down, the man of iron did something nobody in rugby league ever expected to see: he completely broke. Subscribe to All Sports Updates right now to see the side of the game the cameras usually miss. The disintegration of trust didn't happen overnight, but the climax felt like a sudden car crash in slow motion. Robinson had spent years cultivating an environment of absolute transparency, often referred to as the gold standard of professional sports culture, where every coach and staff member was an extension of his own vision. However, behind the closed doors of late-night strategy meetings and private recruitment dinners, a splinter cell had formed among his closest confidants, the very people he shared his tactical blueprints and personal vulnerabilities with. They weren't just planning a departure, they were orchestrating a systematic dismantling of his intellectual property to benefit a rival bidder, all while sitting across from him at the breakfast table every morning. When the evidence was finally laid bare on his desk, emails, leaked data, and secret agreements, the betrayal hit with a physical force. Robinson didn't erupt in the famous robo-rage we see on the sidelines. Instead, his voice cracked, his knees buckled, and for the first time in his professional life, the architect of the Roosters dynasty wept openly in front of a stunned board of directors. All sports updates, your home for the truth behind the headlines. The weight of this breakdown wasn't just about the loss of staff, it was the realization that the eastern suburbs way he had bled for was being treated as a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder by his friends. For hours, he sat in an empty locker room, the flickering fluorescent lights reflecting off the tears of a man who realized that in the cutthroat world of elite sport, love for a club is often secondary to the lure of personal ego. He had defended these colleagues against media scrutiny, brought them into his family circle, and mentored them as if they were his own kin, only to find out they had been white-anting his leadership for months. The psychological toll was visible, the sharp, piercing gaze that usually dissected opposition defenses was replaced by a hollow, thousand-yard stare. It was a moment of profound human frailty that stripped away the supercoach moniker, leaving behind a man who was grieving the death of a brotherhood he believed was eternal. Recovery from such a visceral wound is never linear, and while the Roosters continued to compete, the shadow of that betrayal lingered in every handshake and every tactical briefing that followed. Robinson eventually rebuilt his circle, but the scars changed him. He became more guarded, his trust earned in inches rather than miles. This wasn't just a footnote in a coaching career, it was a transformative trauma that redefined how he viewed the loyalty of those in his inner circle. It serves as a haunting reminder that even at the highest level of professional success, the most dangerous hits don't come from the opposition on the field, but from the person standing right next to you in the trenches. The day Trent Robinson cried was the day the NRL realized that even the strongest foundations have cracks. What would you do if your closest mentors turned their backs on you? Drop a comment below and make sure you're following all sports updates for everything NRL and beyond. Would you like me to expand on the specific tactical shifts Robinson made after this incident to secure his legacy?